Hello, I'm Christina, and I'm here with Martina. Martina,
Hello, welcome.
and we are your podcast hosts for Everyday Ordinary, Extraordinary Women. We were inspired to create this podcast after pondering on this question. What would the world look like where we can be inspired by every person? Usually, we're very quick to compare and judge ourselves and others. And when we do that, everybody's losing. Depending on my point of view, I can either feel small because I come out lacking or arrogant and dismissive because I feel superior. Those are usually the only two options from that perspective. And neither of those make us feel very good. So here's our thought. Someone's everyday normal is someone else's extraordinary. Judgment comes from our first impressions. So we invite you, the listener, to go beyond your first impressions and see the magic everywhere. There's inspiration at every corner, in everyone, if we're willing to look. And today we are so real excited to have Deanna with us. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about Deanna right now. Deanna is a best-selling author, The Dating Mirror, Trust Again, Love Again, and founder of The Dancing Goddess, whose mission is to empower women to raise their confidence, heal themselves, and naturally magnetize opportunities and relationships that light them up. How exciting. Deanna, we are so thrilled to have you here. So welcome, and please introduce yourselves to our guests.
Thank you so much for having me. It's such a blessing. And, just like everybody listening to this, I really believe that no matter what has happened in your past, that you have the capacity to create a beautiful, magical life. And I was not always a coach, so I started out actually as a high school English teacher and ended up, doing intuitive readings on the streets of San Francisco in my 20s that evolved eventually into a coaching business that you see today, Dancing Goddess. And really, the premise behind that is that, we are always dancing with every cycle in our lives, and we're always changing and growing. And the more that you can really love yourself and stay present with yourself through those changes, there's like magic and support in places that you could never have imagined. So I'm really, really excited to be here with all of you.
Just the image of dancing goddess is so freeing and exciting and magical. Like not even knowing what dancing goddess does, just that image is just so exciting. So I really am thrilled to spend this time with you this morning. Um,
Actually, let me just say quickly,
yeah,
Christina, the other thing that, as you were talking that came to me is like the dash, right? It's like you're a teacher dash, intuitive dash, like, and we all have that. I remember reading it in one of Brené Brown's books, and there is a woman who wrote a book, right? I still want to, I cannot find it, right? I cannot find the title of the book, but that dash, right? And we all have those different labels, those dash this, dash that, dash, it's like, yeah, Christina, massage therapist, dash, bookkeeper, dash, we all have that. And how cool is that, right? How cool is that? So sorry, Christina, I just wanted to say that.
no, I think it's a really good point because we do have most of us do have so many hats that we wear and I just think it makes life more exciting the more you can own those different aspects and really start um giving space to all those different passions that light you up, right? So um and that doesn't mean that if you don't have that many passions there's something wrong, but to be able to give energy to and hold space for that stuff that lights you up is really cool. And to create a life that you can do all those things that you love is really special. So
Absolutely. And really just like giving yourself permission, right? To go to the next dash. Like if you feel like one dash is complete, it's like that doesn't have to define me. I am defined by how I feel about myself, not necessarily the label or the identity. We get caught up in like mom, wife, good friend, daughter. And it's like, if we take all those labels off, all your job titles off, and all that's left is your essence. Are you proud of what you see when you look in the mirror? And I think at the end of the day, that's what we can all hope for.
Absolutely.
And each of those actually fill a certain something in us, right? Like they like you were talking before, which you didn't talk about in the intro, about being a realtor, right? And it's like everything comes together in a way, but everything feeds a little bit of our
Yes.
souls, right? And how beautiful and how powerful that is.
Absolutely. So, Deanna, finish this sentence for me. If you really knew me, you would know.
If you really knew me, you would know that I trust my intuition even when it sounds crazy and irrational.
I can relate to you on that. I often am leaving the house to go to work, and I literally hear crystals or essential oils calling to me, and they're like, "Pick me, take me to work today." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" And I go in the room, and I'm like, "Oh, that's the one." Okay. And then I hear another one calling, and then I'm like, "Am I making this up, or are my crystals really calling me?" But I have to trust it. Like, I have all these tools for a reason, and I trust my guides. And if that's the message I'm getting, I have to roll with it, even if it sounds like I am a nut. I gotta just trust it, right?
Absolutely. And I think we spend so many years not trusting it, right? Trying to please other people, trying to kind of fit in. And I realized pretty quickly, like, if I don't listen to that voice, she screws me over every single time. So I might as well listen the first time. And usually it works out really great.
And I love that you say that, because that's where I was going to go, right? It's like more often, not more often than not. I've gotten much, much better about listening, but I'm like, really? I mean, really, that's what you want me to do?
Yeah.
No, you know, you know. So good for you. Good for you. So, Diana, we just got to talk just a tiny little bit before we got on the call today, and I just wanted to thank you for being here, and I wanted to thank you for what's the word? The light that you bring, right? It's just so obvious,
Thank
like
you.
the love and the passion that you bring. And so thank you. It's very much needed. So let's go to the first question. So tell us something funny or silly or embarrassing. Do you have a story like that?
So the story that's coming to mind is kind of a combination of all of those. But when I was living in San Francisco, a lot of my stories come from that time. I was dating this super gorgeous Navy lieutenant, and he lived in San Diego, and we had a long distance relationship. And I thought I thought it would be cool to surprise him and like hop on a plane. Well, for whatever reason, that particular night, there were no cabs on Haight-Ashbury, like none. And it started to rain pretty bad. And at this point, on my path, I was not like really into angels, into intuition. I was very much in the 3D world. But I remembered that my college roommate said you could call on Archangel Michael to help you in like a pinch. And I was desperate. And so I remember looking up in the sky, like drenched, my suitcase is getting wet. And I'm like, I don't believe in you at all. But if you do exist, can you please send me a cab now? And I saw a cab come by, and he went right past me, and this business guy in a three-piece suit like came out of nowhere and totally stole the cab. And I just remember cursing at this guy, being like, I knew you weren't real. And then the unthinkable happened. At the next light, the cab driver, I guess, kicked the guy out, reversed back to me, and he said, get in. You saw me first. And I was just like, okay. We made it across the Bay Bridge in record time during rush hour. And I realized as we get across the bridge, I don't have enough cash. It's just like it's getting worse and worse, right? And I'm gonna miss this flight. And I just said, I am so sorry. Like, I don't have all your fare. Like, can I get your number? And he was this sweet kind of grandfatherly energy. And I remember he got me to the curb and he said, I told you I'd get you here on time. Don't worry about the money. You're in Michael's cab. And I was like, what? And he just started laughing and he went on his merry way. And I was like, on the plane, angels are real. That Zach was right. And I realized a couple of different things. Like, first, I had to get out of my own way, right? I had to let go of control. And at the same time, I had to call in support. I had to like believe that I was worthy of that support and that it would come from a place I didn't expect. Right. And also, right, required vulnerability and transparency with saying I didn't have the money. Like he could have dropped me off on the side of the bridge. But it's about being authentic. And even though that relationship eventually did not work out, like that whole experience taught me a lot about what is possible, where we try to control, and that ultimately we are always taken care of. And it really started me on my path. So I started taking classes around intuition, around reading oracle cards, and it just what started out as like kind of a skeptical hobby eventually became right a career. So I didn't see that coming. Nobody wakes up one day and is like, I would like to talk to dead people and read cards for a living on the sidewalk of San Francisco. And I have a teaching degree and a college degree. So I think we're put where we are supposed to be. So yeah, was it embarrassing? Yes. Was it funny? Yes. Was it enlightening? Yes. All of those things. And I always like to share that because no matter what your belief system is, this concept of something is taking care of me totally changed the game for me.
So many good illustrations in that story. I'm almost not sure where to begin, but I think number one is asking for help, right? Like asking your angels are always there to help, but you have to ask. And it's the first thing I tell all my clients who are going through something. I'm like, you must ask your guardian angels for help. You need to ask all the angels for help. Just ask them for help and start playing with them. And the more fun you have with it, the easier it becomes. But oh my gosh, that's a brilliant story.
Yeah, it's kind of like the foundation for everything else that comes, right? I'm like, oh, okay, from that place I can trust, from that place I can relax and not be perfect, right? Spirit loves us no matter what happened, no matter what flaws we think we have. And it's just an invitation to do that yourself.
So good.
Yeah, and the willingness that you had, right? Despite like it feels like you get to the point where it's like it's so hopeless that you're like, okay, I'll try anything, right?
Mhm.
And in a way, it's kind of sad that we have to get to the point where
Right?
it's so hopeless that we'll try anything, right? Rather than stepping into that without kicking and screaming, right? So in a way.
Yeah.
But still, like it gets you to that place where it's like, okay, I surrender. I'm willing. I'm open, right? Which is
Mhm.
beautiful, beautiful.
And I also feel like it's important to say that, you know, just because we surrender, just because we let go, does not mean we get everything we want either. Right.
Mhm.
So, like, there could have been a lesson there for me to learn in missing the flight, right? Or, you know, if he hadn't backed up. So I think it's twofold. You know, you have to know where you fall on the spectrum. Do you tend to just want to be the control freak and have to have everything your way, or you tend to be the other side kind of and just be super passive and expect things to maybe work out, maybe not, but I don't want to take personal responsibility for my choice. And like find the balance for yourself. For me, I was on this side of the spectrum. So like being able to say, wow, I really have no control if I miss this flight it was hard. I was like, damn it, I'm gonna make this flight. So loving yourself, right, through that process of kind of finding where your authentic balance is in the giving and the receiving and the asking for support, and also taking accountability for your actions and your desires.
And
Really
and
good.
and thank you for that disclaimer, right? Because we often have that thought. It's like, oh, I can just ask and everything's gonna come.
Yeah,
And no, it's just it's where we stand rather than what we ask for, when like where we
exactly.
stand and standing in that place of, what I hear when you're talking is life always happens for us rather than to us.
Yeah. Yes. And that we are in control of our energy and who we are being in any situation, in any circumstance. And when you can really get into that space, it's like life is going to be crazy sometimes, but you don't have to join the crazy. You can observe it and then respond instead of consistently like reacting and like participating in the drama. Because we can. I mean, I did that too. It was kind of fun for a couple of years, a couple decades, right? But
Okay, now
ultimately,
I want to do a disclaimer, and the disclaimer is it sounds very simple. It's not always easy. Okay.
right.
And I totally like it's beautiful what you're saying, and it's but I just want to be mindful of, you know, not making anybody wrong, because sometimes it's not, it's very simple, but it's challenging, right? It's challenging because I always say, it takes conquering our mind to be able
Yeah.
to get
Well,
there.
conquering the mind and I would say too, accepting, right? Accepting the mind, accepting its role. It's not like we're always going to have fears. We're always going to have a part of us that wants to control the outcome. Like we are having this human experience. But I liken it to the metaphor of a car, right? Like usually when we're letting our fears kind of lead, I liken it to like a 2 or 3 year old version of us having a tantrum and like just like gripping the wheel, the steering wheel. And our higher self is in the passenger seat, just going, if you could just like scoot over and like let me just drive us to where we need to go, then you can have any tantrum you want on the passenger side, but we need to switch. And so loving and accepting that part of you, right? That aspect of you that feels scared to let go of the reins, I think is really an important step. So if I was to break this process down, step one is acknowledging that, you want to explore a different way of being, even if you're not sure how to do it, right? Like, I think I would like to try something different because my experience is showing me that like my results are not matching up. And then step two is being willing to do it imperfectly and to just kind of practice, like we said, finding your edge, finding your middle. And then step three, right, is to receive. And all those feelings in between of like, am I worthy? Am I asking for the right thing? Right? It's like, can you embrace all of that and know that it's okay for you to get that support? And in my work with clients, a lot of what I help them with is feeling worthy, is feeling safe, emotionally and in their nervous system to take actions that are different, right? To explore avenues that are going to make their heart sing, but make like that little girl inside or that little boy inside terrified. And having the tools to slow down, to nurture, to love, to hug that part and not banish that part, but still keep moving forward. So I always say I'm kind of like a cross between like the therapist and like, the matchmaker, like coach, because we do go into a lot of deeper healing work, but it's for the purposes of bringing you to your authentic self now, not so much looking at the past and kind of like ruminating there.
Yeah, and always remember to be gentle.
Yeah,
One of my, it's
absolutely.
like, it's okay, you just fell off the wagon. It's okay. We're gonna go back up. No worries.
Mhm.
You can always
Right. And to know that we're human, right? We are going to fall down along the way. And that's just normal. That's just part of the process. And
Yeah.
you get back up and you try again. And yeah. So I think this leads us into our next question perfectly because you're talking about, but what would you say your superpower is? I think you've talked a lot about it in what we're talking about, but what would you say your superpower is?
My superpower is listening deeply, right? Listening to my intuition, listening to what's not being said with like a client or somebody, and like helping them love themselves from whatever point that is. So I'm really good at taking kind of a lot of emotions or stories or whatever is going on and like really like listening and fine tuning it into like what is actually happening and like what is actually the thing we need to address first, and just simplifying things. I'm really good at that.
simplifying is always good.
It is
Yeah.
in a world where we're so inundated with technology and access to so much stuff. I think we get sometimes we don't know where to begin, right? Because there's so much access to so many courses and modalities and all sorts of things, right? People don't know where to choose sometimes. And having someone who can help you just simplify it and make it easy to understand and to move forward and take action is really a powerful um, tool to have in your toolbox for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we can definitely get caught up on the course or the training wagon or the certification wagon, and sometimes it's needed, right? Sometimes it's just part of our journey and that's where we're at. And then other times I'll, lovingly call out BS. And I'm like, you actually don't need more certifications. You're just scared of actually starting. So let's start there. Right. And they're like, but I'm like, no, you don't. You don't need another week-long retreat to find this. I'm like, you are ready to put yourself out there. You just need to decide.
So good. Yeah. We have all the tools we need to be happy already. Like there's nothing we need to
Yeah,
learn. We just need to get out of the way and start enjoying life, right?
enjoying life. Absolutely. Sharing yourself, not doing it perfectly, I think is like the mantra right now, right? So looking
Absolutely.
at where in your childhood you felt like you had to be something for somebody or be perfect, and like just acknowledging that and seeing, oh, I don't actually have to be perfect because that's impossible. And everybody's got stuff going on, right? And it's okay.
So tell us about the time you took a chance for love. And it might not be romantic love, it's whatever you define that to be.
Oh my gosh. So it's so funny. Like I saw that question and I had this whole other like, again, perfect story prepared. But what's coming right now intuitively is to talk about my little dog, Bella. So I was living in Oregon at the time and I did not want a pet, right? I was definitely having like the gypsy life, traveling, teaching everywhere, total freedom, time freedom and location freedom. And the man I was with, just for fun, he was like, let's just go to this shelter. I'm like, okay. And around the corner comes Bella, this little miniature Doberman Pinscher Chihuahua mix. And she was so unlike all of the other puppies who were playing and acting crazy. She was just kind of observing them. And she was 6 months old. And she came over to us and just literally hopped in our lap and like fell asleep. And I was like, shit, I think we need to get her. And it was so irrational, but my heart, I'd never felt this like opening in my heart. And there was a thunderstorm, and we went to PetSmart to like grab her bowl and leash and everything that she might need that I didn't know. And all the lights go out in PetSmart, and we're just like, okay, grab whatever bowl you see, like hurry up. And I found out later when we got back to the apartment, the bowl that I had chosen, the back of it said Bella. And I grabbed it in the dark, And she's going to be 8 on Saturday. And she is like literally one of the loves of my life. And so taking a chance to me was like facing all my fears, right, around being able to take care of the animal after having led this very free, independent life. And every day, right, she just reminds me of what unconditional love is and just being in the moment and being present and being aware of my energy. And she'll stare at me sometimes, like she's staring straight into my soul. And I'm like, I can't lie to Bella. I can't like do this, you know, kind of half-ass thing because Bella's like looking at me. Like she's great for that. And so yeah, taking a chance 8 years later, I'm so glad I did. And I feel like it's helped me a lot with, you know, my own marriage. I just got married last year after thinking I was never, ever going to get married. Didn't really ever have this strong desire, but it was ironic because I was, you know, I'm kind of sought after for people that want to get married. And I'm like, okay. So yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
And a beautiful, beautiful story. Yeah.
Yeah, she's right outside the door. I didn't let her in because, you know, if the Amazon guy comes, Amazon is the devil apparently, and we'll just hear Bella barking the whole rest of the podcast.
Red alert, red alert.
With a machine
So we have
gun.
right? So the next question has a multi-part one, and you can choose to answer one part of it. It could be kind of all the same. I'll just read it and then you can kind of see how it goes for you. So what made you who you are today? What was your biggest lesson? What took the most courage? Or when did you take a stand for something that mattered?
Wow, those are big questions. Um, Honestly, I would have to say when I made the decision at 17 to leave Texas and travel to Chicago on my own and go to school there and just like really own my choice. So my parents really were encouraging me to stay in state, you know, and all of that. And I wanted to pursue musical theater of all things. And that's what I was trained for. And my father was like, great, like if you get scholarships, but we can't afford to send you out of state. My mom was like, please stay here. And there was just a dogged determination in me. And I applied for, I think, like 75 scholarships. And I got almost a full ride to Northwestern. And I got in for theater. And I was just like, see, bye. I'm never coming back to Texas. And I feel like that really kind of gave me a lot of confidence and it helped to set the tone for everything that followed. I can make my own decision, right? Like I can trust that what I really have a yearning to study or explore is valid and that I'm going to find a way where logically there may have seemed to be no way. And I think that it was that same energy that inspired me to eventually leave teaching and eventually, you know, get like an agent and move to San Francisco, start my business, trust that I could have a business and all of the rest. So I would say 17, standing in the living room in Texas with the acceptance letter to Northwestern saying, sorry, but I'm not staying.
Wow. So what would you say was underneath that though? Like, did you always like know you were meant to like, I don't know, find your way? You know, did you always have this curious mindset? Was this something like in your home that you were given, or like I
Yeah,
don't know, what
I
kind
think,
of
you know,
inspired that?
I think looking back, I always knew that I wanted to explore the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like a big part of my favorite part of my childhood was accompanying my father on his, you know, business trips to like New York City or like Miami. And I got to stay in these amazing hotels. He was a personal assistant to this like Venezuelan oil business tycoon who had a bunch of homes. And so I thought that's how everybody lived, and it wasn't how we live normally, but I'm like, for like a weekend, I get to be a princess. And, my father took me to the theater and kind of encouraged me to read a lot and see plays. And so I think it was always part of like my DNA and yearning to get out of what everybody expected. But then on the emotional side of things, like many, many of us, right? Like I'm an empath, and I was kind of the unspoken emotional therapist for my household. So I have a younger sister, and when we were growing up, she had a lot of behavior and like mental emotional issues, and so I took it on myself, right, to not have any feelings, to not have any needs, and to make everybody happy, make babysitters happy, my parents, right? And so I think by the time I got to high school, I was just like, I am just going to excel in every way I know how so I can get out of here and really like explore who I am. Shortly after my parents divorced, and I felt really guilty, like I should have held the family together. And I realized looking back, I'm like, no, like that was my intuition saying you need to go and live your life and let them figure it out. Right. So yeah, I think it was twofold: inspiration, and then also like, I want some time for me, even if I don't know what that looks like.
It's beautiful what you're sharing, because it's that part of, like becoming invisible is probably one of the things we're brilliant at, like as empaths, right? Like just step into the background, just let everybody, like I'm just gonna hold the space, trying to keep the peace. I'm gonna do my thing, and not consciously, because I can tell you, for me, it wasn't conscious, but still, it was like, okay, I'm just gonna be good. And in a way, how enabling that is. It's not empowering, it's enabling, right? And you getting clear that for you to grow, you needed to leave, for you to be I'm going to say, for you to learn you, for the lack of a better word. And I know it's not proper English, but it doesn't matter.
Okay.
Say stuff like that because I'm not originally from here, so I get to say stuff like that. At least that's the excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
I make up words all the time, so you're fine.
Yeah, so do I. And you needed to do that. You needed to leave, and it seems there's a part of you that knew that you needed to leave to become who you are. And I can tell you from experience, living far away from family, you really get to become who you choose to be, because you're not kind of trapped in that little box, expected to always be the same person, right?
Exactly.
Which then when you go back causes friction, but
I was just gonna say that, like, coming back is always a interesting adventure.
Yeah, because we're expected to be who we were when we left, and we're not, because we just had a whole different life. So beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes, of course. I'm glad I did it. And it's funny, like halfway through, I decided that I wanted to go into education. And so I thought maybe I'll try to transfer. Like at that point, I was ready to transfer to University of Texas at Austin. And of course, my parents were thrilled. And it turns out it would have been 2 additional years, way more money. And they're like, you're staying where you are, you're staying. So like the universe was like, yeah, that's cute. You're going to stay in Chicago, finish this out. And it worked out. So
beautiful. Beautiful. So what fills you up?
what fills me up? Beauty. I know that sounds so general, but like I need beautiful environments or I feel sad, and like I think unconsciously and consciously wherever I go, I'm like, how can I like bring beauty to this space? Like whether it's adding a plant or just like making a joke, like that's just who I am. Like I have my aromatherapy diffuser going. I have my goddess lamp over there. I'm like, So beauty, beautiful things, beautiful people. That's what fills me up.
Beautiful. Thank you.
What do you love about your life?
What do I love about my life? I love the people in my life. I love the lifestyle I've created consciously, right? Curated consciously, of being able to set my own schedule and spend as much time with my husband as I want and my dogs, our dogs. Yeah, and the freedom to travel and go see my family and friends out of state and combine that with the work that I love. So, yeah. I was just looking at a card that my husband gave me recently. I love our life.
Beautiful. That's
And I
beautiful.
love that you have it sitting out to remind you.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, if there were no limitations and no restrictions, and you could do anything or be anything, who or what would that be and why? Like another way of saying it, who do you want to be when you grow up? You know, like when people say, "Oh, I don't want to grow up," so and that's fine.
Yeah.
But if you wouldn't have to grow up, but if you could do anything, be anything, and there would be no restrictions or no limitations, what would it be and why?
I think I would be the same. Like I still would be me. I would still have this lifestyle, but it would just be like a little like 10x version. So what comes up when you ask that is I would like to live in like 3 different places throughout the year. I feel a strong connection to Europe. I've never actually felt that connected to the US, and particularly Italy. I think I must have had many past lives there. And I told my husband, I'm like, one day, even if it's, 10 or 20 years from now, I want to go there for a month during the crazy summers in Arizona and just live and be. Um, yeah, so I think being bi or tri-coastal during the year and also being invited, right, to speak at like beautiful, like kind of exotic locations on an ongoing basis and like maybe even write a column in like a magazine, like an advice column. I think that would be so fun.
I can so
You
see
know,
that.
the place that came was Bora Bora. Who knows why? I was like,
Fine with me. I've
Bora.
never been there.
You're like,
Yeah,
I'll spend a month there. Why not? Yes.
totally, totally. And I didn't plan on sharing this, but I feel guided to. So my husband and I made the conscious like decision together that, we're probably not going to have children. And it was something that I wrestled with. I froze my eggs when I was 40. I'm going to be 43 this year. And I'm kind of deciding, right? Like, what do I do with them? And it wasn't until like very recently that I finally feel this like deep peace with it. I'm like, that may have been a desire that I had in my 20s and 30s. And for whatever reason, I had other things to do, right? And now I'm like, I feel very fulfilled with our life the way it is. And so coming up against, that, I guess, pre-programming, right, with society or like friends or even, my parents, to kind of go this traditional route when, inside I'm like, if it's not really meant for us, I'm okay with that. I think that was a big turning point for me in this past year.
Well, especially with a Latino family. I mean, good for you.
And it's so funny, right? Because I have a younger sister who's like got a very traditional life. Um, she's a lawyer, right? She's got all the bells and whistles, and she's a lesbian. And my mom growing up was like, she's never gonna get married, she's never gonna have kids. Like it's all on you, basically. And she ended up getting married and like has 2 children. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I can do whatever I want now.
Pressure is off.
Yes.
It's so good. I can relate though, because I don't have children, which is really funny. Because when I met Martina, I was like, I'm gonna have 5 kids,
Right?
and
I
I
did
can't
too. I
wait to be a
thought that was going to
mother.
be me.
And I realized probably in my 40s that I couldn't do the work I want to do if I had those children. It it wouldn't work for me. I know there's plenty of other massage therapists and healers who manage, but that just wouldn't have worked for me. And I'm really at peace with that. And I have so many children in my life that I get to love, and that I'm not missing out on that experience.
Right.
So, but it definitely was a conversation you have to make peace with, right? Like
Yeah.
it's okay though. Like I'm okay with not doing the checklist of life that other people are doing. I have my own checklist, and that's okay.
I
Well,
love that.
it's interesting because for women, it is part of the package, right? And I really applaud women who consciously choose not to follow that for whichever reason, right? It's everybody's choice, but it is so societal that that's the next step. That's the next step, right?
Mhm. Get a house, get
That it's
married, all
yeah, that it's so in ourselves as well, right? And I think it's beautiful if you're clear that that's not you. It's just one of the best things, right? Because it
Right.
is,
Well, and that like Christina, like you said, like we can do our work in a more expanded way, perhaps, that we don't have children. Not that you couldn't do both, right? But the energetic capacity is a bit greater because our focus is, on that. And so, yeah, it's interesting, like the choices that we make. And most of my friends do have children. Actually, one of my best friends just gave birth to twins yesterday, and via IVF. And she was calling me. She's like, "Can you do a baby blessing? And I know we haven't talked for forever." I'm like, I called in the angels. And so I do feel like part of my purpose is to support women with children, right? To
Yep,
remember to love themselves, and also we get
absolutely.
that little kid fix too. So
Yeah, yeah.
I actually, so I want to, as Christina was talking, it's like, yes, I cannot do, like, I couldn't do what I do. And I have 4 children, right? Like, how I see it is I really needed my children to be able to do my work.
but
And,
you knew that deep
and
inside of you, right?
yeah, well, I always knew that I wanted children, and I always knew that I wanted 4. And if you would know them, each one is completely different. And Christina can talk about that. But it's a part of my work was, and I guess still is, holding them to go out and be extraordinary, because it's almost like the work like continues like expands in a different way. That makes
Mm,
sense.
yes,
Because,
absolutely.
you know, um, okay, and of course I brag because I'm the mom, right? But who my children are extraordinary. They really are. And Christina, I don't know if you can attest
Our
to that,
children
right?
are extraordinary. I can attest to that. But I'd also like to say that, Martina, part of what set you on your healing path was having your oldest diagnosed with muscular dystrophy. So
Yeah.
so your children absolutely set you on your path, but it was in that fierce mama bear, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to
Mm,
learn how to heal them and manage this. And like, and so like I don't you didn't just be like, oh, I'm gonna start playing in this to take care of my children. Like it was like my kid got this diagnosis, and I'm going to now do whatever it takes to make this kid as happy, and that has all the tools available, and that I've done everything in my power. And so it's just different, right? Like your children came into your world and then kind of showed you your path.
Yeah. And I also believe that, they came, how do I say this? It's almost like they came for their healing and they came for my healing.
Right.
Right. So but going back to that, like more capacity, right? It's like the work is just different. That's all I want to say. It's not that, it's just, my extension is my children in a way, if you want to say it that way, which is not really the right way of saying it, but it's part of who they are in the world, right? That is a different expansion. So
Yeah, and we all have those
access
we
to
all
it,
have
right?
that.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's just different access, right? Like I found it because of my own health issues. Martina's children led her on her path, and we're all guided in very different directions, but still wind up at very similar places, which is really cool.
Yeah.
So Deanna, if you had a magic wand and could give people any quality, what would it be and why?
Any quality. Self-acceptance. I feel like everything comes from that. If you accept yourself, you're willing to love yourself, right? You're willing to forgive yourself. You're willing to forgive others. It's like, if you can accept where you are and who you are, then you can make decisions from a very grounded, beautiful place.
Beautiful. And not take things personally. I think that's
Yeah.
such a struggle when you're saying things from a place of love and people take it personally. When you're accepting of who you are, you have that capacity to just take it as loving input and not take it personally.
Or love that person. Like that's where they're at. This is really what they believe. And I
Yeah.
honor that they believe that. It
Yep.
doesn't have to be my truth.
Right. Beautiful.
it gives a groundedness. That's what I hear inside of that.
There's space for both. It's like
Yes.
nobody's right or wrong. It's like, that's you, and this is me, and that's fine.
So Diana, you have a business. Do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, so I run Dancing Goddess, and Dancing Goddess is really all about empowering women and also young girls to love themselves. So there's different aspects of the business. So I do one-on-one readings still. If you're looking for clarity and just would like a little bit of insight on a specific area. I also do one-on-one coaching. So we go a bit deeper if you're ready to meet the love of your life and feeling afraid, or, you're in the middle of a transition and you need some emotional support or spiritual support. I do deep healing work in those sessions. And then, I created a beautiful community called the Goddess Circle Collective, and it's a membership community. We meet once a month on the new moon on Zoom, and everybody's welcome. And you can check it out in the website. So the best way to reach me is at thedancinggoddess.com. And yeah, got meditations on there. If you like to read, I wrote The Dating Mirror with my friend Mary Ellen on Amazon. But I think I'll pause there because there's a lot. There's a lot that people can explore on the website.
Yeah, and they can go to your website, and we're going to post it in the notes. So for whoever.
Wonderful.
And you also said you had
A free
an
gift.
offer for them. Yes, a free gift.
Yeah. So going back to the beginning, right, of our conversation with Archangel Michael and the cab, because the angels are so dear to my heart, and I know that when I was hurting, right, and confused, that's what helped me. If you're in a space where you would like that extra boost, right, that extra angelic boost and love, I've put together a channeled meditation with the angels for free, and you can listen to it whenever you like. And I designed it to help you create your best year whenever you happen to listen to it. So the link for that is in the show notes. So you'll want to look for the best year yet link.
Beautiful. Yes, I'm going to add those links. We're going to add those links to the show notes. So thank you. Thank you so much for being here, Diana. It was a pleasure to deep dive with you into conversations. We never know where we're going to end up. And Christina and I are always so excited. We walk away and it's like, wow, that was so cool. So thank you for being part of this.
Thank you so much for having me. This was such a blessing.
You're very, very welcome. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for being here, for listening. If you loved this, please leave us a review. And please share, so we can just spread that beautiful inspiration and excitement all over. And please always remember, you are extraordinary. You rock. Until next time. Christina?
Bye for now.